Hello, sharing fans. It's David from California. I'm here with Diana from New Jersey again. Diana, who do we have with us today?
Hey everyone, we have Cassandra from California joining us today.
Hi everyone, I'm Cassandra from California and I'm going to be walking you through the 2023 Women's World Cup. To start, this tournament is taking place in New Zealand and Australia. There's 32 international teams competing for this World Cup, and it is occurring now and will end on August 20th. And I have included a diagram at the bottom to display where each of these games are being held. So the teams are traveling across Australia as well as New Zealand. And then this is a diagram of the field they are playing on for those of you that are not familiar with soccer. So we have two halves on each side of the field and two goals. It's a complicated game of keep away basically. And so these are the dimensions. There is a little bit of variation. So it can be within the range of 110 to 120 yards long and 70 to 80 yards wide. But the thing that stays pretty consistent is the size of the goal box. Some information about soccer that you might need to know is there is a duration of 45-minute halves, and these halves can go into a little bit of overtime to make up for stopped play. An example of when they would add on an additional few minutes would be if there is an injury that takes place because the clock is continuously ticking. So they include those minutes back so that it is still a fair advantage to score a goal. Another crucial piece of information is that each team has 10 field players and one goalkeeper on the field at any given moment, and they're allowed to make 5 player substitutions per match. And the World Cup is also hosted by FIFA, and FIFA is the international governing body that hosts the World Cup every 4 years. So to begin, we start in the group stages in the World Cup, and it is typically held in the round robin format where each team plays each other once, and the third game occurs simultaneously so that teams do not know the result required to reach the knockout stage before they take the field. And the top 2 teams from each group advance to the knockout stage, and draws are allowed in this group stage. So I have an example at the bottom of the screen and a red box highlighting a very clear example of a group where we see the top 2 teams, Spain and Japan, will move on to the next stage, and Costa Rica and Zambia will not move on because they have lost their previous 2 games. And this breaks down the letters you will see at the top of each of these groups. So MP's matches played, and then the point system is really important to understand. So a win gets a team 3 points, a draw will get them 1 point, and a loss will only have 0 points. So that doesn't help you or hurt you necessarily. And then the goals for is basically the goals your team is scoring, and goals against is the number of goals that are being allowed or scored on your own team. And then the goal difference is comparing each game and each team. So we see the point system all the way over here on the right. Since Spain has 2 wins, they have 6 points. Same with Japan. And then because Costa Rica has lost both of their games, they don't have any points. And we see the goal difference of each team, how many goals they've scored and goals they've allowed from their opponents. So the first group we see is Group A, and what's important to note about the group stages is the top 2 teams will advance to the next round. In this example, we can say that Norway will not move on based on what they have here, but then game 3 will be important to determine what which 2 teams move on to the next stage. And so game 3 for Group A occurs on Sunday, 3 a.m. Eastern Time. New Zealand will play Switzerland and Norway will play the Philippines. So on first glance, I would say that Norway will not progress, but then we could look at it in another scenario where if Switzerland does win and then also the Norway wins their next match, it could largely upset the group standings, and we will see those 2 teams move on to the next stage. In Group B, we see a little bit of a more clear picture of who might progress in the knockout stage after game 3 on Monday, when Nigeria takes on the Republic of Ireland. Since we see right now Nigeria is in the #1 spot and the Republic of Ireland is in 4th place, it's likely to continue with Nigeria moving on and Ireland being eliminated. In Group C, this is the example we had mentioned previously, where Spain and Japan are both dominating in their group, and Costa Rica and Zambia have lost all of their games so far. So Game 3 in Group C will probably keep the same 2 teams in the top, where they will move on to the next stage. Group D also has a little bit of a clear picture with this one, because England has won their previous 2 games. Haiti has lost their previous 2 games. So the teams to look out for are Denmark and China, since they both have a win and a loss each. So we'll see on Tuesday, England will take on China and Denmark will take on Haiti. Group E has the United States in it, so I think that's relevant for a US audience. Same format here, where the top 2 teams will advance to the next round, and game 3 will be really important in this group in determining who moves on to the next stage. And we'll see them play on Tuesday. The United States will take on Portugal and the Netherlands will take on Vietnam. And Group F, we see on Wednesday taking place in France is going to compete with Panama, and Jamaica will play Brazil. And this one, we can say that it's likely that Panama will be eliminated because they have lost their previous 2 games. And then France and Jamaica are tied for that 1st place spot. So it'll be interesting to see who takes on that 2nd place one, because Brazil could easily take over Jamaica. Group G will also be important for this one, because right now it looks like South Africa and Argentina will be eliminated based on their previous 2 games. So it's likely that Sweden and Italy will move on, and we'll see them play on Wednesday. In Group H, this group has not played as many matches yet, so it's a little bit harder to predict. We'll see them play on Thursday for their game 3, Germany and South Korea and Colombia versus Morocco. And then I was going to expand a little bit more on Group E, which has the United States in it. And basically, the United States is guaranteed to move on to the knockout stage with a win or a draw against Portugal, which is their next opponent. And then they will win the group on goal differential if both matches end in a draw. So that will be the remaining 2 games here, Portugal and the United States, and the Vietnam and the Netherlands. If both of those end in a draw, the United States will win the group. They can be eliminated with a loss towards Portugal, and the Netherlands would have to win or draw against Vietnam. And the 2nd place will be decided by tiebreakers if all of those previously mentioned things come true. In order for the Netherlands to progress, they need a win or a draw against Vietnam, and they will win the group with a win over Vietnam, and Portugal win or draw against the United States, or a win from Vietnam and the US also wins their game against Portugal. They would be eliminated with a loss to Vietnam and Portugal beating the United States, as previously mentioned. And then Portugal can advance with a win over the United States or a draw against the United States with Vietnam beating the Netherlands. And then they would be eliminated with a loss to the US, and then the Netherlands also winning their match. I did not mention the what-if scenarios for Vietnam, since they have previously no points. They haven't won any of their games, so it's likely that they will be eliminated completely. And then here is the groups that I have just walked you through. All 8 groups are going to finalize their standings after game 3 has been played this week. And that's where we will see them move on to the knockout stages. So this diagram shows all of the games that have occurred in Group A or will occur this week. And the 1st place team in Group A will play the second place team from Group C at this game right here in Eden Park. And then the same format kind of follows for the rest of these, where we see the first place team in Group E competing against the second place team in Group G. And then over here, the first place team from Group B will compete against the second place team in Group D. So it would be advantageous to score more points early on in the group stages, because if you are that first place team, you know you're playing the second place team from another grouping. And with that, you have an easier time making it to the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the final match. So the important thing about the knockout stages is there are no ties allowed. It's a single elimination match style and no draws. So if a match ends in a tie, there will be extra time allowed and penalty kicks will be used to determine the winner. The knockout stage begins with the round of 16. Since we started with 32 teams originally, as teams are eliminated, we move down to 16 teams. And the winners will face off each group with the runners up from the next group, which I had just explained. And this will be followed by the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the final match. And the losing team, or the losing semifinalists, will play a match to determine the third place team. So some terminology that I think is important to know before watching these games is a PK, which is a penalty kick. And that is a type of free kick awarded to the opposing team when the defending team commits a foul inside the box. So an example of how this would be awarded is if the defending team is tripping the offensive team, if they're pushing them within this larger box that you see on the field right here, or if there's a handball that's preventing the opposing team from scoring a goal. So then they place this on this white circle underneath the ball. It's a little harder to see in this image, but this is about 12 yards away from this goal line. And in this scenario, it's just the striker against the goalkeeper, and you can see the defending team and the opposing team all have to wait outside of this box until the kick has been taken. Another important term to understand is a penalty shootout, which is used to break a tie game after extra time in a knockout match. So we won't really see this in the group stage, but we will once they make it into the knockout brackets. And each team can select 5 players to take penalty kicks against the opposing team's goalkeeper. Some more terminology that I think is important is VAR, which is the Video Assistant Referee System that allows match officials to review incidents and assist with decision-making. So in this image, you can see we have several referees up in this room looking at several monitors of the game being played in real time. And there are referees down on the field making calls, but then also in communication with the referees that are up in this room. And they're referencing the official rule books in most cases to determine whether or not a foul is drawn. Another important thing to know is the goal line technology is technology that uses a high-speed camera system to support goal or no goal decisions. So they've attached a camera on top of each of these goalposts, and they're looking to see if the ball fully crosses the line or if it just barely touches, but then goes back out the other way to determine if it's a goal to be awarded to each team playing. And then the final thing that I think is important to know about is optical tracking systems. We'll talk about that a little bit throughout the games if you're listening to commentators. And they're using cameras above the field, which focus on the field of play. So they're tracking players, the referees, and the ball. And this is often referenced when they're trying to determine if someone is offsides in a play or not. And that's my general overview of the 2023 Women's World Cup. Let's have some fun.
All right, Kassandra, that's awesome. It's time to have some fun.
Thank you. Let's have some fun. I hope that you guys enjoyed that presentation and learned more about the 2023 Women's World Cup. Let's engage on LinkedIn. Do you like to brag? Do you like to follow soccer? Or do you just like to make predictions about games? We have a poll about who do you think will win this year. Personally, I'm all about Group E. I really think the United States will take it again. So Give us your feedback and take the poll. We look forward to seeing you.